Hello drama lovers, welcome back to the K-Pop World Channel. Today, we invite you to dive into an unexpected moment. Not about a comeback, not about new drama, but about a scene that made time seem to stand still. A moment that happened in just a few minutes, yet left a deep mark. A moment involving someone who arrived without announcement, and someone who finally emerged from behind hospital walls after disappearing for so long. About Xiao Zhan, about Wang Yibo, and about a wheelchair that suddenly became a witness to so much unspoken emotion. That day, the hospital looked no different than usual. Patients came and went, doctors and nurses hurried through the corridors, and a few visitors sat quietly in the waiting area with tired eyes and bowed heads. Everything seemed normal until a black car stopped in the back parking lot. No sirens, no commotion, just a quiet that somehow felt heavy. Inside that car was someone who had been silently waited for. He stepped out slowly, wearing a medical mask and a dark hoodie. His steps were calm. No bodyguards, just one man. But it was enough to shift the atmosphere of the hospital's 5th floor into absolute stillness. A few nurses writing reports paused, sensing something unusual, but no one dared to approach. That figure walked straight through the VIP hallway without a word. Yet every step seemed to call forth memories long buried. It was Xiao Zhan, and when the door to room 510 opened, everything changed. Inside, Wang Yibo was sitting quietly, staring out the window. His body still looked frail. The color had yet to fully return to his face. But when he saw that figure enter the room, his expression shifted. For a moment, disbelief. For a moment, the fear that it might be just a dream. But as Xiao Zhan stepped closer, saying nothing, simply standing behind the wheelchair, words were no longer needed. The world turned silent. Even the beeping from the 4 machine faded. Xiao Zhan placed his hands on the wheelchair handles and began to push it. Slowly, incredibly slowly, as if time might stop if he moved too fast. And when they exited that room, silence turned into a storm. A passing doctor froze in place. A nurse cupped her hands over her mouth. A visitor about to enter the elevator dropped his phone in shock. No one had expected it, that the man who had vanished from the public eye would appear like this, quietly, and leave while pushing his best friend in a wheelchair. The first few seconds were chaos. Then came the tears. Silent sobs. No loud cries. One staff member even had to step back to compose herself. CCTV monitors, usually ignored, were suddenly watched intently. Security staff whispered among themselves, but no one dared block their path. Wang Yibo looked like he was trying to smile, but his gaze remained distant. There was relief, but also weight, like someone who had just finished a long battle in silence. And the figure behind him, who had always been known for his calm demeanor and camera-ready smile, said nothing. Xiao Zhan kept his head low, eyes focused on the path, pushing the wheelchair as if it were something far more delicate than metal and wheels. The way he held the handles was too personal to be called just helping. The excitement started to rise from the ground floor. A few fans who happened to be in the hospital lobby noticed the CCTV feed on a small corner screen, usually displaying hallway traffic. But when the camera caught Xiao Zhan pushing Wang Yibo's wheelchair, the entire lobby stirred. Out of nowhere, fans began to gather. Some tried to go up to the 5th floor, others stood by the elevators holding back tears. A few immediately took out their phones, recording from a distance. But no one dared get closer. They only watched, in silence. One of the most touching moments came when an elderly nurse, who had worked at the hospital for years, stood at the end of the hallway and placed her hands together in a gesture of respect. Her face was soft, her eyes glistening, as if she knew this moment would never happen again. And when they reached the elevator, time seemed to slow even more. Wang Yibo turned slightly. He looked at Xiao Zhan, not for long, but long enough to speak without words. Xiao Zhan returned the look, then slowly pressed the elevator button. As the doors opened, they stepped inside. Downstairs, nurses watching the monitor went silent. One of them even cried quietly, covering the screen with her hand. When the elevator doors closed, the atmosphere returned to silence. But this time it wasn't shock. It was emotion too big to describe. When the black car reappeared at the hospital's front, the back door opened. Xiao Zhan stepped out first and helped open the side door. With assistance, Wang Yibo slowly stood from the wheelchair and entered the car. Before getting in, he glanced back at the hospital, his eyes swollen. Then he looked at Xiao Zhan. This time, he simply nodded, as if to say, "Thank you for coming." The car drove off, but the buzz was just beginning. Within minutes, blurry photos from CCTV leaked on his social media. Eyewitnesses began writing long threads. Some described how emotional it was to see both stars in such vulnerable states. Others talked about how frail Wang Yibo looked, yet how his soft smile never left. And of course, many focused on how Xiao Zhan pushed the wheelchair like he was holding something heavier than metal and plastic. Fan comments flooded every platform. I don't care what their relationship is, but clearly, it's more than just co-workers. If you're sick and he's the one who shows up, you mean everything. Xiao Zhan came quietly, but his presence changed everything. That's love in its quietest form. They don't need to explain anything. What we saw today was more than enough, and the most shared one. One hand pushing the wheelchair, and one heart carrying the weight. The hospital refused to comment. Neither agency gave a statement, but in their silence, the world spoke. A world that had only speculated finally saw the truth with its own eyes. That in an industry often full of make-believe, there are still moments too real to fake. And for drama lovers, this moment felt like the climax of a story that was never officially written. Like a hidden chapter only known to two people who once saved each other. We may never know how deep their wounds were. But that day, one thing became clear. They had, and perhaps still have, each other's backs. The real question now is what comes next? Will they appear together again? Is this the start of something new? Or is this simply a brief but meaningful encounter? We don't know, but we're waiting. And to you, who watched this story unfold till the end, let us know in the comments. What do you think this moment meant for them both? Was it just concern, or was something more? That's all for today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to K-Pop World so you won't miss emotional updates like this one. Because behind the glamour of showbiz, there's always a side not everyone dares to reveal. See you in the next video.